tip number one is write your essay in units, right? Episode 4 of our series talked about that. We're going to get into this with an example. But you want to think not with this focus on everything that you have to do, all the ideas that you want to put down on your essay, how much your word count needs to be. You simply want to be concentrating as you're writing that every sentence is a unit, and that unit is part of a larger unit, a paragraph, and that unit is part of your essay, whose job it is to persuade the reader or to show the reader your ability to write an academic persuasive essay. So the first thing is to prioritize making sure that every part of your essay as you write does its job. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to go over an example. It's going to be great. Tip number 2, very important, especially as you're learning to improve your score, write to your word count, right? In small group tutoring, when we work with students just like you and we see example essays written under timed conditions, I would say 50 to 60% of the time, the paragraph under time conditions is cut off. And so what that means is it's incomplete. So we're not really masters of how much we can type, how much we can write under time conditions, right? The 30-minute essay for question number 2, that's our focus here. The 20-minute essay in question number 1, and even the speaking. So the speaking we'll talk about at a different time, but it's the same idea. You want to realize how much can you type well with good grammar in the time that you have. For example, the body paragraph, you'll learn as we work together, we have 9 minutes to write that out of the 30-minute essay. So there's a certain word count that you can produce, and you want every part of your body paragraph. Remember, there are 4 steps we have to complete, 4 units in the unit of the body paragraph, and you want to have the ability to write all 4 parts with the ability that you have now, and that will improve your score. Tip number 3, think first, type second. That can be a really big one if you let it, as we say, sink in, right? So let that word sink, which means fall into your brain and kind of land there and stay there. Because think about how important that is. When you're typing, are you so focused on getting to the end or finishing on time that you're not really thinking about what you're writing before you're writing it, considering both your grammar and your content, right, what you're trying to explain? And then going back to tip number 1, the connection with the whole essay, because sometimes that's why it can be challenging to improve. Which brings us back, so we went through all these 3 tips. Now we're going to go into detail, but as usual, let me connect with you with what this is all about, right? So this is our episode number 7 of TOEFL Talk with NoteFull, and it's all about improving your TOEFL writing score with 3 tips to score high on question number 2, focused, but also on question number 1. So what I want to make sure you remember is this is where you get to ask your questions, where you get to build your vocabulary, and you get to feel good because you're partnered with us to success. Because just to kind of come back with you, you know, that image that you see on the screen, that represents our journey, right? So this series is really meant to support you and other students, as you know, working hard week after week, month after month to make the biggest improvements for the most demanding requirements on the TOEFL. So this series is meant to support you because it can be tough to find the support to really both build your academic English and your TOEFL skills so that you improve a whole nother level. And remember, just like if you were going to university and you were learning English academically, you'd have a course, right? It'd be months of work and you'd have an exam at the end. You want to think of the TOEFL like that. It's not just tips and tricks, but it's also really building and changing the way you think about writing, the way you write, improving your grammar, as well as, you know, tips and tricks so that you can succeed as fast as possible. So with that said, let's return to these 3 tips, right? How do these work in real life so that for question number 2 and for question number 1, you can improve? So wonderfully, you see it on the screen as well. We had a submission. We didn't expect one, and you know, we're starting this series, and we're going to see how it develops and what we can do to help you best. But we thought this paragraph was so well written by Parth that we wanted to use it as an example to review the 3 tips, because remember we had an episode on each tip, episode 4, 5, and 6 of our series. And if you go below this video, you'll see the links for those lessons. So this can be, a 4-hour big jump into mastering your writing, all focused on question 2, where today we connected a little bit more with question 1, but it's really going to be concentrated on a question 2 body paragraph. So we're going to apply those 3 tips to his paragraph, and let's jump in. Okay, so what you see on the screen is the paragraph that Parth submitted, and we're going to talk about this now. I want to remind you that this is a series, right? So just like if you were watching a program, if you jump into the middle of the series, you're going to learn, you're going to improve. But if you feel a little lost, make sure you feel comfortable reviewing the previous episodes and really feeling like this is our partnership to your success. So you want to watch. And just to remind you, we launch these every Thursday, every week, and sometimes every other week, just depending on our schedule, but you can rely on the consistency over time. And so this is the question that we worked on for the past 4 episodes, right? Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? People behave differently when they wear different clothes. Use specific examples to support your answer. So this is an example question 2 that you'll get, and you'll have 30 minutes to write your essay on. And so what we did over the last 3 episodes, about 3 hours of work, as you see me scroll up, is we gave an example body paragraph, and you can pause this video and read through it, but remember the previous episodes will really in detail explain everything. Then we broke it down into units. We understood that each paragraph has to do a job, and to make it easier for you to do that job, to improve, so the computer that evaluates you and the rater that evaluates you as well, they evaluate you higher when you take your next TOEFL compared with your last TOEFL. So we divided that into colors, and so we see the 4 steps that need to be done. So you can pause this video here to review and study this. Then we scroll down. And then here we emphasize talking in units, right? You see episode 4, 5, and 6 are kind of summarized here very quickly, where you want to remember that it's tough because you have to manage so much. But for many of you who have been on the TOEFL journey for some time, right, months and even years, you don't need me to remind you it's tough, right? But the good thing is to tell you this is why it's tough. It's not that you don't have the ability. It's just that there's a lot that we have to have in our head, a lot that we have to have mastered, so that in 30 minutes or 20 minutes, we can produce an essay that gets your score. So for question number 2, we realized that our whole essay, when you read your essay, when you write it from beginning to end, it has a purpose to persuade. So you actually want to sense, feel, think, hey, this essay, it presents my opinion well, and I think if someone read it, they wouldn't perhaps agree with me. Maybe they disagree with me in the beginning, but now they agree with me. If your essay does that, then you know you're on the right track to get your dream score. So to do that, we think in paragraphs: introduction, body paragraph, conclusion. And then when we think, because each of those paragraphs has a job, we think about steps, right? So just to remind you, this series is also connected with NoteFull.com, right? So this is where we train you with courses that are hundreds of hours of content, online classes. We have 16 hours a month. We've been doing that for years. So I want you to feel comfortable that there's a lot to learn, and you're going to learn here. But if you feel like, how do I write an introductory paragraph like this well? What about the conclusion? What if I can't come up with reasons or examples? As you can imagine, we can do 5 or 6 episodes on each. So that's where to support the channel, to support NoteFull, to get the help you need. We'll talk at the end of this video how we can partner to success. But this is just meant to help you the best we can. It's designed both for you as a NoteFull student, for those of you currently with us, And for new students, to kind of get a sense of how we work and kind of to know if you're an ideal student. If this level of focus really helps you because you're trying to get the top score. And so allowing that, we might have a lot of questions. Let's work on really improving our body paragraph for question 2, which will improve our score, and how that can help us with question number 1 as well. So each of those steps of a body paragraph need a few sentences. Some need 1 or 2, some need 4 or 6 in order to do the step well, right? Just like if you explain something, there's a kind of a magic amount of information to deliver. If you deliver too little, it's incomplete. The person listening to you or reading doesn't have clarity about what you're saying. And if we maybe write too much, it can be more than necessary. And on a timed exam, we don't really have that opportunity, right, to write as much as we want. So you want to make sure that you realize every sentence does a job in your paragraph so that it does its job in your essay. So if you're thinking about, I have to write a lot of details, I have to express a big example, I have to tell a big story, we want to switch that, right? Tip 1, thinking in units, is really this powerful focus on, this is an academic essay, how do I produce results for it? And so the next thing that's really important that can help you with thinking in units is to remind you to write in grammatical chunks. We're going to talk about that a little bit today, because the amazing thing is, if you're watching this and following, your English level is quite high. Your grammar is quite strong. Whether you believe it or not, it's true. It's true, because I work with you and I get the chance to hear you speak when you speak carefully without pressure, and see you write as well. So if you have an idea and you just express it, the way you're thinking is almost like you're telling your brain, please produce 50 words clearly. And that's too much. That's too much to handle. So for anybody, whenever you always want to write in about 3 to 6 words at a time. That way you can double check the grammar, the prepositional phrases, the subject-verb agreement. So it's like one piece at a time. So it's like you write sentences in units, and you write these sentences in little grammatical units. So that way you can really produce the best essay overall. Hope that makes sense. So as we continue down, we see here that this was focused on tip number 2, right? This is where we got into episode 5. And that's where we started to make our body paragraph smaller. So remember, that's your job, right? So I want to ask you, do you know how many words you can write under TOEFL conditions for each paragraph? Your introduction, your body paragraph, your conclusion. Do you have that number? It's okay if you don't. Remember, it's super easy to find out. You set the timer, for example, for the body paragraph for 9 minutes, and you jump in and type a body paragraph. For any essay you have, you can do it for this example question if you haven't already. And that number of words is your word count at that point. Now, you can increase it. And we talk in episode 5 about how to improve how fast you type, and also kind of different things you can do to come up with ideas more easily, right? Episode 5. You see the link below the video. But then what you want to do is make sure that you write the complete paragraph in those number of words. So that means you might need to get rid of the timer and just practice typing a complete paragraph with that word count, however much you can type, because that gives you a feeling of how deep you can explain. Because many students, the idea they have is like this big, right? It's like big. And then the amount of time they have and the amount that they can write is like this. And that stress, pressure, rushing worsens your grammar, incomplete paragraphs, or you have an imbalanced essay, right? Where your introduction and your first body paragraph, you feel really strong, and then you're rushing in your second paragraph and your conclusion, you didn't have time to review, you don't know if it makes sense. So that's how it influences your score by keeping it low. So writing to your word count is so important. And so we did an exercise where we took a large paragraph, we made it smaller, if you remember. And then we scroll down, and then one of you submitted your fantastic paragraphs. Now, this paragraph submitted is 193 words. That's awesome. So if we take that and we extrapolate that, so that's a great word. So let's go ahead and go to extrapolate. Fantastic verb. Great for us to use, high level word. Kind of higher level, high school, college. So extend the application of to an unknown situation by assuming that existing trends will continue. So essentially what that means is extend, like assuming the existing trend continues. So here, if we're producing 193 words and we extrapolate that, right, we extend that speed of typing, we elongate that, right? Because extend is a good word that I think most of you know, but I always want you to have a great habit of reviewing even basic words because definitions can help you to explain things more clearly. So for example, extend, cause to cover a larger area, make longer or wider. So we extend this to the next body paragraph and the introduction, the conclusion, and this is probably like a 500 to 600 word essay, which is fantastic. But you want to write to about 450 words maximum. You could write more, but you don't need more than that, right? So if you're writing more than that, that's great, but you can actually relax a little bit. You can type more slowly, you can think more carefully, you can have more time to review your grammar. So Parth and others who can write like this, beautiful, and let yourself know you have some comfort, right? So you want your finished pair essay for question number 1 to be about 450 words, 450. Question number 1 about 275 with great quality, right? Quality first, content, the amount, quantity second. And that's going to make sure you get your top score. So we wrote the first sentences of this second paragraph, body paragraph, if we agree with the statement. So we're agreeing with the statement, people do behave differently when they wear different clothes. And we began our body paragraph together. And here's what we wrote. The yellow is step 1. The green is step 2. You can always go back in the video to review step 1, 2, 3, 4 if you haven't already, or review episode 4 of the series so you're clear on that. So second, people treat you differently when you wear different clothes. As a result, you behave differently because we usually respond to people as they respond. And then I had a little typo there. To us, right? Respond to people as they respond to us. Now, when you see this, right, let me make it a little larger. I want you to remember that thinking is important. A lot of times we feel like all I need to do is have great grammar, a lot of content, and a big story, which is disconnected and going to keep you at around an 18 to a 22 on the writing, which is a good score. But if you're here, most of you want that score or higher, 24, 26, even a 30 out of 30 for graduate school, for your pharmacy, physical therapy, teaching, nursing, licenses, just the whole gamut of what everybody comes here for. So that's another great word for us, right? Gamut. So the gamut is the complete range or scope of something. So it's a great word. I'm sure you probably heard it before. So gamut. So the whole gamut of why students are taking the TOEFL. So the whole range of why students are taking the TOEFL, this is going to help you to get the top score. And so you see that it comes from musical notation. So gamut is a great word. We go back over here. And so this student completed this paragraph in a fantastic way. Now, do you realize that people treat you differently when you wear different clothes is okay, but disconnected? It's not complete because this question asks us, do we behave differently when we wear different clothes? Not how do you treat me, right? It's a different question. So this is okay, but I want you to show the logic is incomplete. That's why step 2 exists, to make sure that we take care of that. We really always have to carefully connect with the question. As a result, you behave differently because we usually respond to people as they respond to us. So we're explaining a chain of logic, right? So if we go back to our screen and we go to chain, this is really important, right? A chain of logic. So this is a good one right here. So those three things need to exist together, right? These three links, because we call them one link, two links, three links, links in a chain. So one sentence by itself is incomplete. Some reasons are really simple, so they only need one sentence. What causes trouble for us when we're trying to get our dream score is that sometimes some reasons are really simple to explain, and some reasons to be complete need a few sentences. So that's why we have the first two steps of give the reason, and always give the second step more clarity on how does that reason lead you to agree or disagree or have your opinion. So now we realize I wear something, you treat me differently based on what I'm wearing, and then I behave differently. That's the logic. So these first two steps, the grader reads, not only for your grammar, but for your explanation. So if your grammar is perfect, but your explanation is confusing or I don't get the idea, that's going to keep you at an 18 to a 22 on the writing. So we need to think critically. Same as question number 1. You really want to take time to think there's a person, even though you have one computer, one human rater, there's a person reading this, and I want that person to understand my idea. Then the grader will read and give you a higher level rating, right? So now that I've had those first two steps, I have the next two steps, right? That's giving my example and my conclusion, because academic writing requires evidence. So you're giving an example as evidence of this. So here's where students get into a little bit of trouble, because that's where think first, type second comes in, because you do need time to remind yourself, here's what my example needs to do. I wear something, so you treat me a certain way based on what I wear, and that changes my behavior. That's the evidence that what you wear does influence how you behave. Does that make sense? I wear something, let's say I wear nice clothes, you treat me nicely, so I behave with confidence, right? If I wear clothes that we think are not nice, you don't treat me nicely, and I have a stress, shyness, and maybe depression because of the way I'm being treated, and I behave differently. So yes, the clothes I wear does influence my behavior, right? That's the argument. So the example needs to copy that perfectly. That is academic writing. So if you start to discuss something off topic from your reason, it's not benefiting you with higher word count. It's lowering your score, because the grader realizes this student has lost connection with their own paragraph. It's like you tell me this paragraph is about this, and then you start writing about something else. It's like, oh, this student is good, but hasn't mastered the academic paragraph. Their score is an 18 to 22. So now let's see how Parth did this. So let's read together. And so in our training, all of our training, what we do is we always train you to read at about 160 words per minute. If you have that training, for example, for the TOEFL reading, for writing question number 1, you have a 3-minute reading. For the speaking, question number 2 and 3, you have readings. If you train yourself to read at 160 words per minute, which we train all our students on, right, as you know, and remember that when you get to an important sentence, you can slow down, but you want to keep that strong pace of 160 words. you will not struggle with time management when it comes to reading. It can be frustrating because you won't be able to slow down if you don't understand something often, but that's the reality of a standardized exam. So, with that, I'm going to give you 1 minute to read the rest of what Parth wrote just to see, does it satisfy the job of step 3 and step 4? Does it create the connection? Does it do the job? 1 minute to read starting now. First, bravo to Parth, right? That's an amazingly well written paragraph. Fantastic. As good or better than I could write. Beautiful job, Parth. And that shows you and all your skills. But if you can't write like this, it's okay. We're learning how to improve. And as I always want to remind you, if you keep following, if you keep partnering with us, right, NoteFull, and you keep working on what we're training, I promise you, you can get up to a 30 out of 30. We've done it, students have done it, because you're mastering a standardized exam, which we can do. Now, did you notice did the examples have that chain of logic? I wear something, you treat me a certain way, therefore I behave differently. Was it there? It wasn't really, because, for example, when I am at home with my children, I usually wear loose fitting and comfortable clothes like a t-shirt and track pants. So track pants, that's a great vocabulary word, right? So, you know, track and field is where this comes from, kind of track pants. At least that's my assumption, right? I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I assume. So they're the pants that you go and exercise with, right? Track and field, where you run and do things like that with. So a t-shirt and track pants. Now, this is perfect. What is our chain of logic? Number one, I wear something. And then what is this paragraph about? Do I behave? What's the next idea? I behave differently? No, you treat me differently, right? Somebody treats me differently. So this allows us to have fun with each other. So this is where even a top, well-written essay still needs training. That's why, TOEFL teachers, when they first start, they need training on the TOEFL as well, because well, at least most people do. It depends. I know I did, because it takes a lot of concentration on this. So this allows us to have fun with each other. Okay, by playing different games like hide and seek, cricket, football, table tennis, etc. And it makes for a great bonding session between a parent and child. Then we have, on the other hand, which is illustrating another situation. So you see, this didn't quite do the job. Beautifully written, but we need something that says, my children behave differently with me, therefore I behave differently. And it all started with the clothes I wore. So what we can change here is now emphasize on the children, right? This allows, or we can make this a little clearer, right? So the way my brain works, the way it would continue the idea is, how would you finish this, right? Take a moment to think. right? Maybe pause the video, think out loud how you would finish this. Very important, because if I can write it, your score doesn't change 1%. You have to write it. So you can pause the video and reflect. Okay, and I hope what you realized is now we need something like, when my children see me with this clothes, they feel comfortable playing with me. Then we can have a comma. Well, I'll make the grammar a little more simple. Playing with me. They often, what can we say? They often drag me outside to play games or hide and seek. Something like that, right? And hide and seek, let's see, I believe we want to hyphenate that. And hyphenate that. So let's see, hide and seek. Yeah, we have it hyphenated here. Let's go to meaning and see if we can get a, yeah, hide and seek hyphenated. So, of course, I realize this may be hyphenated. Usually we hyphenate a few words when they form one clear idea, like this is one game. So we have hide and seek. And so this little dash, well, it's not a dash, it's a hyphen. The hyphen between words. And again, the power of just Googling and putting definition or meaning. And that tells you how to spell things, what they mean, how we use them. That's your tool to improve. And we know drag, right? Drag is when you, and this is a great definition, right? What is drag? How do we explain it? Pull along forcefully, roughly, or with difficulty. Like kid grabs your arms, come on, dad, come on, mom, come on, right? So your kids drag you. They drag you outside to play. Now, we have the children, others, behaving us differently depending on the clothes that we wear, right? So that's established, but is that complete? No, right? Because now I need to behave differently. So that means my children are being playful with me. They're dragging me outside to play. So what's my behavior going to be like, right? If we want to write a nice positive example, we say they often drag me outside to play games or hide and seek. With their positive energy and excitement, I start to play with them and have a positive, no, I already used that. With their positive energy and excitement, I start to play with them and enjoy our time together. Right? So it could be a little bit stronger, but I believe, for example, the reason why I say that is, does this illustrate the way I behave? Yeah, because I start to play with them and enjoy it. I'm not frustrated. I'm going through the process. So I wear these clothes. I'm just feeling normal. And then kids drag me out, play because they see the clothes. It's time to play. And then I get that energy too. And now, after reviewing that, I can enhance this, right? Because what I realize is here, for example, when I'm at home with my children, I usually wear loose-fitting and comfortable clothes like a t-shirt and track pants. I can emphasize, I usually feel tired at that time. So for example, when I'm at home with my children, I usually wear, so I could say, because I'm often tired and just want to relax. So that's different. So it kind of enhances the example, right? Because I'm actually showing there really is an influence on my behavior depending on what I wear. Because I'm sitting down, I'm tired, I don't want to do anything, right? Or you're tired, you don't want to do anything. And then you're just wearing clothes. And then because of the way you're dressed, somebody treats you differently. Your kids treat you differently. Come on, let's go out, let's play. And then with their energy, positive, excited, you get that energy too. So that's the logic of the reason that we've developed. The clothes you wear does influence your behavior. There's an example for it. And so you see what I did was I didn't change my content because of grammar. I didn't change my content because of word count. I reread it, thinking carefully, and as a result, I created connection. So do you see how we're thinking in units, right? Because the links are units, one, two, three. I wear some clothes, you treat me differently because of that, I behave differently. One, two, three, thinking in units. The next thing you see thinking in units is you see how I added that phrase? That's a grammatical chunk. That's a unit that creates connection. So you see, I didn't make some major change. I just added a phrase that enhanced the strength of, yes, how I dressed influenced my behavior. I wanted to relax, but instead, because I wore this clothes and what happened as a result, now I'm enjoying and playing around, right? So this is going to get us our 30 out of 30 because remember, I don't want you to feel pressured because you're just improving, right? And so what that means is that you are going to get a higher score by mastering and applying this. And that's going to continue to happen all the way to a 30 out of 30 if you keep it up. So for ease, let's see how much word count we have here. 104 words. So the average student we teach writes at about, can write like 120 to 140 words, so we won't make it much longer. Then we have this on the other hand, and you see this the same issue, not as strong, but the same improvement can be made. One, two, three, because you have to be obsessed about your reason and connecting with it because it's what you're being evaluated on and it's what's hard. So obsess is one of my favorite definitions, right? When we use it positively. So obsess means to preoccupy or fill the mind of someone continually, intrusively, and to a troubling extent, right? So that means we don't want to stress out, but the idea of using obsess is this is what we mean by write in units, think first, type second. And what you're seeing here when I checked word count is write to your word count. So you really, when you train, you're going to be able to produce that on the TOEFL. If you train as if you have 45 minutes on the TOEFL and you write a perfect essay, it's going to hurt you when you get on the TOEFL. And so when we see this now, we can have a quick contrast. On the other hand, so here's a couple things we can do because now I'm thinking in units, right? So my brain immediately remembered the question because it's obsessed about this. So I've already talked about a personal example, and this question is a little bit more universal, right? So what that means to me is it's not asking do people treat me differently, it's people. So I'm using myself as an example of a larger phenomenon, right? Phenomenon's another great word for us. So a phenomenon, a fact or situation that it is observed to exist or happen, especially one whose cause or explanation is in question. So key phrase here that we're using, situation that is observed to exist. So our agreement, my agreement, is that yes, this is a phenomenon in the world. We experience this. And so when we go over here, we've used just me. So now I need to extend that, kind of extrapolate that to the world. So this doesn't just occur for me. This, and then we can say this is a phenomenon we all experience. And if you remember in previous episodes, when we have phenomenon, phenomena, right? What do we use? Phenomenon or phenomena? So which one's plural, which one's singular? So we have it right here. So Greek usually has this. Phenomena is the most common singular form, and phenomena is the most common plural form. So whenever you think that, like me, oh, I just had that thought, I wanted to remind myself, am I correct? We all make mistakes. We all need review. Take a moment to Google that, especially when you're training. When you're practicing under TOEFL conditions, You won't be able to use a dictionary or spell checker, but after you finish, go ahead and do that research to strengthen your mastery. And so we go back up here. And so this doesn't just occur for me. This is a phenomenon we all experience. Now, this kind of serves as the conclusion for step 4, but I want a slightly stronger conclusion. And here in the conclusion, you see that the conclusion is meant to repeat how this reason, how this example strengthens the reason to my answer, my belief. So when we say, hence, it is quite evident that people in your surroundings treat you depending on the clothes you wear, that's not quite the full chain. So hence, it is quite evident that the clothes that people wear, and I eliminate that because remember we can, that's a reduced adjective clause, right? And so again, if we have a little trouble with grammar, I'll talk about how to partner with us so we can train you on grammar and on every section of your TOEFL. So hence it is quite evident that the clothes people wear influences how they behave, right? And so now we have a paragraph that is 131 words. So 131 words, if we extrapolate that, that'll probably be like a 325, 350 word essay because you'll write another paragraph like that. And again, our example here is what you can build on. So in our courses, as you know, for those of you following us, for those of you in the classes, we'll talk about that later. We always give examples of perfect essays, but also essays that you can work with so that you can build from where you are now. And so you can easily expand this with an on the other hand example, but I cut it short just so it's something that we can manage. So now the next thing that I want to do is I want to bring back that vocabulary word drill. Remember drill? Because you know what I'm going to say now, right? Especially those of you who've been working with us for a while. So a drill is, it's always the second definition, right? Let's see here. Subject to, here we go, instruct in something by the means of repeated exercise or practice. Ideally, for you to improve, you can pause this video, rewrite every word of this paragraph by hand or type it out, maybe 15 to 25 times with your brain on full power. So every time you write, you're reviewing capitalization, comma usage, vocabulary, units. Okay, here's step 1, here's step 2. So every time you write it, you're reminding yourself of everything you've learned in this video. And then when you have your own question, when you have a different question, your body is going to be so automatic in producing a very connected, well-written paragraph. So again, drilling this question, this paragraph, rewriting it 15 to 25 times, Parth, everybody, your score will change. The next thing you can do is write a different body paragraph for this. Write an essay that disagrees, right? We agreed, we can disagree. Get yourself to understand that what your opinion is and what your reasons are don't really matter. What matters is how you present them and argue them. So as long as you're writing with some honesty, right? Because usually we can say reasons why we might agree and reasons why we might disagree honestly. Keep it real, keep it honest, and you'll have an easier time writing. So hope you found this helpful. Now let's review. And here are words to review. Extrapolate, which we use to understand word count, right? We saw how Parth wrote a 193 word paragraph, and then we extrapolated that word count to discover that might be an essay of 500 plus words. And we learned once we pass 450, we're good. We don't have to go much farther. We can become more comfortable taking more time to think or review our grammar or keeping ourselves calm and in control. Extend, we learned that as part of extrapolate. To extrapolate is to extend a trend, a pattern, an average over time into the future or into some unknown place to kind of get a sense of how it would be. If it's like this here, we can extrapolate it'll be like that over there. Then we had gamut. So we talked about how the entire gamut of students watching, the different gamut of reasons why students are taking the TOEFL, you're here because you need a top score. This is the way to create that top score. Chain of logic, we learned links in a chain of logic, L-I-N-K. Track pants, that was fun. Right? Especially with the pandemic, I'm sure track pants sales are, as we say, through the roof, right? So not to give you more vocabulary, but through the roof, right? Shoots through the roof because it's so high because we're more relaxed at home. Hide and seek with the hyphens, that was part of an example that was really important because we learned how careful we have to be with our reason. And the idea was our reason stated we wear something, people treat us differently, and as because of what we wear, and so we behave differently because of that. And hide and seek was an example of that. A father wore comfortable clothes like track pants. Kids were more excited to play like hide and seek. The parent wanting to relax, feeling tired, suddenly felt energized because of the energy of the kid, and then we illustrated our idea. Drag, part of that example, right? To move by force, right? You drag something along the floor. Parents drag their children to play hide and seek. Obsess, really important. We learned that when we take the TOEFL, as we write, there are certain things we need to obsess about. And this was the connection with tip number 1, write in units. Tip number 2, to write to your word count so that you can get to the point within the time you have so you have a balanced essay, you get your dream score. And what's the tip number 3? What was tip number 3? Think first, type second, right? So the importance of putting that all together, obsessing about the connection with the reasons, the connection with the question, and those tips. The phenomenon, right? Really powerful word for the TOEFL, and something that exists in nature, something that happens, something that we observed. And we learned with Greek words, data, datum, phenomenon, phenomena, and we also learned before hypotheses and hypothesis, right, with the different spelling. So something that you always want to be careful of. Here it's singular. And drill. Drill, drill, drill for your dream score, right? It's if you're here and wanting to improve, your improvement will come not from days, but weeks and months of work. Not from hours, but dozens of hours. And the beauty, the positivity of that is your improvement will get you a top score so you can move forward with your dream. You can do it, and it'll benefit you throughout your career, especially when it comes to communicating in English. So with that said, we did it. Bravo to you. And so one thing that I want to ask you right now, kind of different, we're changing the episode. Before I would emphasize where to submit your recording, right? That's how you submitted your feedback before. That's what inspired this. But now I'm going to ask for your biggest insight because I realize I think the comments section is a little bit more alive for people to comment and submit, and that's going to be something that we're going to start to focus on now with the next episode. We have plenty of questions to work on. Probably the next episode we're going to review some of your comments and also maybe go into the reading, listening, or speaking since we spent so many episodes on the writing. But what's your biggest insight from this episode? If you could submit your comment below on one sentence, what's the biggest thing you're going to obsess about to improve your body paragraph, to improve your writing question 2 score? Or what's the biggest thing you learned to improve your writing overall? So when you think about that and you type it, you lock it into yourself more, you're more likely to apply it, and it'll help the community. We always love to see the engagement. So make sure you submit that now. You can pause the video to do that. And the next thing, of course, for you, the first thumbs up is to you, right? Bravo, because you're special for making it to the end of the video. The tough video, intense video, just like our training and our courses, takes a lot of effort and energy. So bravo to you. I hope you give yourself a pat on the back and you learned something and enjoyed it. And if you found the video helpful, we hope I'll use a vocab word, but I'll save it for another time. You also give us a thumbs up just to know that you liked the video, you found something supportive, help us stay engaged and excited to share more with you. And click on subscribe, right? So this is where we get to partner together. Again, these videos, these episodes, every week to every other week, depending on our schedule, but they'll always be released on Thursday. And we'll make it a firm commitment the best we can that we won't let 2 weeks go without a episode. So for example, the gap between episode 6 and 7 was 2 weeks, so one Thursday with no video, but we'll do our best every Thursday, and most, just because we have classes and everything, one Thursday without a video, just so you always know you're going to get the support you need until you pass. And of course, how do we work together more intensely? Right? YouTube is great. We have about 3 to 4 hours of work that we do together through this series, but sometimes we need 24 hours a week to improve. That's what we train. And so where do we get that material? How do we work together? How can we help you with our self-study material, our online classes, small group tutoring, grammar training, and more? Just going to take about probably half an hour for you to review how we work, make sure we're a good partnership, feel that faith and confidence, choose the right program, register, and start studying with us right away. So in 30 minutes, you can know exactly what to do. You can have registered for a program, and you can be studying right now to improve with us on the TOEFL. So to do that, all you need to do is go to our site. You see the link below this video on how to get started with us, and we explain everything there. And there's a fantastic success story, right? An interview, recorded interview, where you get to hear one of your classmates who succeeded on the TOEFL talk about how they passed training with us and the major tips for you. So even if you don't register, it's going to be powerful to hear a success story and have that motivation and faith. So with that said, it was an absolute pleasure, as it always is. Your success is coming. We hope you found this video helpful. You know what to do next to succeed, to partner with us. So until our next episode, stay strong, know you can do it, and bye-bye.